Hello and welcome to today's Automation and Testing Daily Lockdown question. Throughout the duration of the UK lockdown, I'm taking questions from the community and trying to answer at least one video a day. One question a day by making one video a day. So today's question comes in from Beth Marshall. Beth is asking us, refactoring automation code, why, when and how? Really important topic. A lot of code is being written now to support testing that's taking place on majority of teams. So it's really important that we obviously write good code, and refactoring is a very large part of writing and maintaining, having good code quality. So I don't, obviously it's a massive topic, so I can't dive into into the depths of this topic, but I'm going to try and relate it a bit more to the trims model that me and Mark Winteringham talk about within automation and testing. So we talk about automated checks being trims. The S didn't kind of fit, but it kind of made sense. We talk about them being targeted, reliable, informative, maintainable, and speedy. So obviously refactoring plays a key part in all of those things. The reason we want checks, this could be a new word for the whole testing checking debate, but the reason we want checks to be targeted is because we want them to be ideally fast execution. When they fail, we want to know why, and usually we target on the right layer. But that isn't always possible, so therefore sometimes we might be refactoring a check to work on a slightly different layer or seam because maybe our testability is improved. Obviously we want checks to be reliable. Therefore, if checks aren't reliable, we might refactor some of the code potentially to make it more reliable. We want them to be informative. So again, if names are wrong, if error messages are slightly wrong, we'll refactor them to make them more accurate. Obviously, massively important, we need checks to be maintainable. Checks should fail all the time, as we'll hit on in a second. So the ability to get them up and running and providing feedback is really crucial. And obviously, we want them to be fast. It's not always a necessity, but ideally the faster our checks are, the quicker we get the information that they're giving us, the sooner we can digest it as humans and make informed decisions. So specifically based on how you asked your question, the why, when and how, let's take a look at the why. False positives. So we would refactor code to avoid false positives. You could argue, and some people would argue, that we'd be fixing the code, and that may be true, but we also might have written a bit of logic that's just a bit flaky. So we don't want false positives. If a scenario or a check's taking a long time to debug, usually that could mean that the code's maybe overcomplicated and it's taking time. So maybe we can refactor that to make it a bit more simple, easier to read, which falls nicely into the slow and difficult to maintain. Slow execution. So if a check is taking a long time to execute, again, that's not ideal. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal because we want that rapid feedback that is made possible via automated checks. So maybe we'll refactor to speed things up. If you think in the UI, maybe you've changed a few weights, maybe you've changed the way that data's created, anything that makes it slightly faster. Your testability might have improved, and I mean specifically here product testability. So maybe you didn't have an API before that you do now have. Maybe you didn't have access to an API. Maybe it was internal and now it's public. So if you now have access to that API, the check you wanted to do is still the same. Your intent is still the same, but you're able to now refactor it away from the UI into a different seam. Maybe that's made possible. And then statues. Statues makes me think, well, the reason statues in there is I think refactoring is, tech-debt/refactoring is the game statues that you probably played as a kid. When one of the kids faces away from everyone else and you have to creep towards them. As they turn around, you've got to freeze, you've got to be a statue. Tech debt's like that. If you go looking for it, you probably ain't going to find it. But every now and again, it will show its face. And if you don't deal with it, eventually it will creep up on you and it will restrict you. That would be the why. The when. So the ideal answer is continuously. You should be refactoring code every chance you get. It shouldn't be like a period of time. It should be every time you spot an opportunity, you take it. And eventually you'll have nice, clean code. But to be more specific into automated check space, for me, when a check fails. So as a check fails, I don't just rush to get it green again. I don't just rush to fix it. I investigate it. I have an opportunity to look at it and go, is its intent clear? is this code well written? Is it using the possible latest versions that are out there? And then I'll refactor it as I'm fixing that check, or as I'm making that check run again. And in the same vein, when you're adding new checks, so if you have discovered a new way of writing code, or you've produced some nicer libraries, or you're using a slightly different tool, use those tools for your new checks going forward. And what tends to happen is you'll reach a critical mass where you've probably done 60-70% and all you need is just a few hours to finish in the rest. I think that kind of planned refactoring works. But when you say, right, next Tuesday afternoon for 3 hours, I'm going to do some refactoring, that tends to not work. I prefer doing it continuously, and these are two key opportunities you get in the space of automation and testing. And then finally, the how. So it's really important that the team buy in. So your managers, your leads, the rest of your team, everyone basically needs to buy in to the fact that you're going to need to refactor code. If they're not buying into it, it's going to be harder for you to do it. So it's really important to get buy-in. And one way to do that is to share your struggles. We often don't talk a lot as testers. We talk about our results, but we often don't talk about the process. So share your struggles. If you are struggling with legacy code, with old versions of tools, with a framework that's been written for like several years and no one really understands how it works, but if you blow on it too hard, it will fall over. Tell people about that, and then hopefully they'll give you time to deal with it and hopefully improve it. But then at the same time, share your wins. So when you are able to do some refactoring, or you've been able to do something when one of the checks fails, make sure you tell people about that, because then they'll be like, oh, we should do that with the rest of them. You'll be like, yeah, we should. If you're doing estimates, increase your estimates just to give you a bit more time to deal with some of the refactoring, because it will always be there. And then finally, philosophy. What's the philosophy on your team? In a lot of software development teams, it's ingrained in developers that they should do refactoring, and it goes without saying, and it's been said so many times, test code and production code are both code, therefore they should be treated to the same standards. So if you're spending time refactoring production code as a team, you should also be spending time refactoring test code. Because as people say, which code's more important, the test code or the production code? The test code's telling you that your production code's okay. So is it more important? I think they're both the same. So give them the both level of love. If you're giving refactoring to one, give refactoring time to the other. And over time, hopefully that philosophy will get ingrained in your team and you'll be able to achieve this idea of just continuously refactoring. So Beth, I hope that answers your question. Oh, wrong way. So yes, if you would like to get your question answered, you can ask away either in the comments underneath wherever you're watching this, or ideally you could post it on the Ministry of Testing Club, and the link to that should be under the video as well. If you want to see more about what I've said, what I've watched, you can watch the videos on this channel, on the YouTube channel if you're watching via YouTube, or you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and you'll see various videos and stuff that I share. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.